Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Seriously. Obviously, there's a lot we want to get into with you from the world of basketball, but first I want to talk about your new memoir, 61, Life Lessons from Papa on and Off the Court. It's a deep dive into your life and specifically how your grandfather helped shape the man you are today. So could you tell us a little bit about how this came to be and why you felt like this was the right time in your life to tell these stories?
Man, first of all, thanks so much for having me. You just never know when the right time is. I've been blessed and fortunate enough to play for a lot of years now. And during the pandemic, I was talking to my wife, my family, my brother, and my brother we just felt like it was time. It was sort of a time that everyone got a chance to reflect on a lot of things. And I just started thinking about how much my grandfather has impacted my life and so many others. And I sort of wanted to tell that story.
You pack a lot into this memoir. Were there any parts of it that were particularly hard for you to address?
Yeah, it was a lot that was hard. You know, when you write things, and through this entire process, I have a appreciation for authors and people who tell their stories. It was really hard writing it, but it was also much harder doing the audio version because you don't realize sometimes when you talk through things. My grandmother passed away when I was 7 years old, and I sort of paint the picture of what that funeral was like. And the same thing with my grandfather's funeral when I talked about that in the book and just visualizing how everything went down, it brought all those emotions back. So it's a process, but I'm glad I was able to do it.
Yeah, I know I'd be a mess at some points myself too, but Father's Day is here. What are some of the things you've learned along the way as a dad, or even things that you learned from your grandfather that you would tell dads out there now that can help them on their own journeys?
Oh man, I would tell you to cherish those moments. I'm so blessed and fortunate to have my father. I'm a father. I have 2 kids, a 10-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old son. My son actually left night before last and went to North Carolina with my parents. And so I woke up yesterday morning with the picture on my phone from my dad of my son with my dad. And just to see the smile on my dad's face and to see my son, who was goofy, he was just making a face. I see the joy from my dad, right? And so there's no relationship like it. And I know for me, as hard as I am on my son, that relationship with my dad, his grandfather, is very important.
I know part of your memoir also discusses the tough situation you had to face when sitting down with your kids and discussing the George Floyd video. If you don't mind sharing, how did you decide to approach that, and what advice do you also have for other parents trying to navigate those tough parts of life?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think everyone parents differently. That's one thing that I learned as a kid and even now as a parent. But me and my wife, we chose to have those direct conversations with our kids because things are so different now and kids have phones and, I would rather have that conversation with them than somebody else do it. And so in having that conversation, it was extremely tough. My daughter, she saw the video and she started asking questions and she said, is this something that can happen to Chris, her brother? And so what we have always tried to do is protect our kids, but not shelter our kids, right? So just always let them know what's going on around them and make sure that they're as aware as possible.
I appreciate you sharing that, Chris, and I really encourage folks to go out and read his memoir. Again, it's called 61, Life Lessons from Papa on and Off the Court. Moving on to a little bit of NBA talk with you, and some of this really does line up with what you talk about in your memoir when it comes to being a mentor to young players coming into this league. We'll be hearing from Victor Wembanyama's name, being called by Adam Silver as he's all but guaranteed to be going to the Spurs with the first pick. But what's some advice that you'd give Victor if you were to call him, right now on the phone? Because these expectations for these guys are, through the roof, and that can be tough for anyone to handle.
Yes, it's extremely tough. He's an unbelievable talent, and the pressures that are going to come with these guys, aside from basketball, is enough to have to deal with, right? So I would just tell guys, as much as possible, enjoy the moment. Everyone's going to try to put this on you or put that on you, but first and foremost, you done worked so hard to get where you are right now. I would say more than anything, savor this moment with your loved ones and your family, and then worry about everything else after.
Jimmy Butler's been in the headlines recently saying that, he said he doesn't care about making it into the Hall of Fame. I'm curious, A, do you believe that? And then B, do you think that we're starting to see a change in the league where guys are almost putting it all secondary to other things in their lives? Like, Jokic, for example, like he said he would have jumped immediately on a plane after the buzzer if he could have the other night. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think everybody's different, and that's what you got to appreciate about sports, about the league, about any and everything. I talked to DeAndre Jordan after they won the other day. I talked to him that next day for a while and just talking about how excited he was in life. And he was sort of talking about Joker or whatnot. But I think that stuff is real. It's real. Like, basketball is what we do. It's not who we are. Those games are unbelievably exciting, unbelievably. And some of us love it. Love it. But when we go home to our family and our kids and stuff like that, that is not the thing that is front of our mind. We always say basketball is what I do, is not who I am. And I think guys are starting to express that a lot more. And sometimes people can take it out of context. Doesn't mean that they're not going to compete as hard as they can. It doesn't mean that they're not going to work as hard as they can. But, there's guys got other things going on too.
Yeah. Something else I'm noticing in the league, it seems that like these personalities have almost taken a front seat to the actual play on the court sometimes. And we see a lot of the, quote unquote bad guys clogging up these headlines, whether it's Draymond, Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irvings of the world. Like, it almost seems like pro wrestling in a way, because fans have really come to enjoy hating on these bad guys more than they're rooting for the good guys. So is this actually good for the NBA?
I don't know if it's good or bad. People talking are always going to talk. It's just funny for me to be in this league for so long. People have always sort of just wanted access to your life and everything that you're doing. And now some people get that access and then they like, oh, we hate it. Well, don't subscribe. Don't look at each individual guy. But I think what people are starting to realize is that in a league of 450 players, there's no way that everyone's going to be the same, right? And so I think that's what makes our league so special, right? Is that there's such a different variety of guys. There's guys into this, there's guys in the video games, guys from these countries or whatnot. But it's sport, right? And sport has the ability to bring people together, but it also has the ability to divide, obviously. So it is what it is, and I just hope, guys are mentally okay at all times.
Yeah. The situation playing out with Ja right now has really dominated headlines, and I want to know from you how, if at all, the NBAPA gets involved in a situation like this. I'm just curious how that ends up working out.
Well, the PA is always there for the players, always protecting the players in whatever capacity that may be. I think more than anything, I can't speak for Tamika. I can speak for myself. I reached out to Ja, just sent him a text message. I've known Ja since he was in college. You know what I mean? Like his dad and everything. So I'm more so worried about him as a person, right? Like his mind and everything like that. So all the other stuff, I mean this when I say it all the time with the union and stuff. You learn to not pay attention to the noise, right? You're more concerned about the guys and who they are as people, and it's real life. It's real life. Of course, the world, people gonna crack jokes, this, that, and the third, but I'm more concerned about his well-being.
If they're pretending there would be a scenario where you ended up somehow on the Grizzlies, how would you go about taking on the role of mentoring Ja? Like, what are some of the ways you'd work with him? I know you mentioned just now how, trying to keep away from the headlines and all that noise, but yeah, how would you approach that?
Me on the Grizzlies?
Yeah.
They don't need me. They good.
But I feel like that's not happening.
So for me, it's not about being on that team or whatnot, or being a mentor to Ja. I've always known so many guys in the league, younger guys, older guys, whoever it may be. And, guys experience things, different things in different times or whatnot. And we all have made different mistakes here and there, and we just try to learn and grow from them. And I think that Ja, just knowing him and his personality and how infectious he is as a person, he'll be back from this, you know, and I'm not worried about it one bit.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to see more conversations with athletes and stars, check out these videos right here and be sure to subscribe for more from USA Today Sports.